Hey folks, welcome to this session, Developers Dislike Security, 10 Frustrations and Resolutions. My name is Chris Romeo. I'm the CEO of Security Journey and super excited to be here today to talk about security culture through the eyes of the developer. So the agenda that I have for our session here is one, I want to introduce you to the idea of the DevSec disconnect. Don't worry, we're going to get into what that means. Then I'm going to talk about 10 frustrations that I've seen that developers have with security. Then I'll introduce an idea called developer empathy, or how can we walk a mile in the shoes of our developers? And from there, we'll go into the 10 frustrations that developers have with security. And for each of those, I'm going to give you a description, and then I'm going to talk about a resolution, because we can't just sit here and talk about the problems. We got to talk about some solutions as well. And so that's what we're going to do with the resolutions is talk about how can we build a positive security culture that's collaborative, and how can we counter the frustrations that our developers are experiencing. And from there, we'll go into our conclusion. I'm going to take questions throughout the session here, so feel free in the question and answer panel to ask me any questions, and we'll talk about them as we go through the session. I want to start by introducing this idea of the DevSec disconnect. So for me, we're talking about developers, we're talking about security. There's definitely a disconnection that exists. There's some tension between developers and security regarding the security of new features and bug fixes. And so let's talk about this from the perspective of the developer and then from security. So as a developer, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, these security people, they're always getting in the way. They're always slowing me down. They have arbitrary requirements. They can't make up their mind. We got to push these new features into production. That's what drives us. On the other side of the coin, security is saying, these developers, they're lazy. They're not applying the guidance we provided in the security process and the pipeline. Their code is insecure. And our tools always blow up when we scan their code because there's so many problems. They can't push this feature into production. And so this is the DevSec disconnect. There's this tension that exists between developers and security. It manifests itself in various different types of frustrations. That's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Now, I wanted to stop and make a quick point, because last year I came to RSA conference and I talked about 10 things I wish every developer knew about security. So last year I felt like I was talking to security, and one of my friends challenged me and said, why don't you flip this around and think about this from the developer's perspective? Think about why developers are frustrated with us as security people, and share that with the security community so that they can understand where their developers are coming from and how they can better serve them, how they can better help them in the process. So this year I'm talking about developers. And so these two things together, you can always go back and look at the talk I did last year to get more of a security focused perspective. So here's the 10 frustrations developers have with security. And right up front, I like to share these with you so that you can see the landscape for where we're going. I counted them backwards. I was trying to do a top 10 thing. I don't know, but counting backwards, number 10, security tools are loud, obnoxious, and inaccurate. Number 9, the sky is always falling. We never celebrate success. Remember, this is developers speaking to us as security people. Security is busy work. Security is a silo, and they act as gatekeepers, and there's not enough time in my development schedule to do security. There's the first 5 frustrations. The final 5, security changes their mind all the time. The security process is difficult. It's undefined. I don't know why we put so much effort and time into security. Nobody ever showed me how to security. And number 1, security doesn't understand what I do and doesn't know how to code. Remember, these are the frustrations that I've heard as I've talked to developers across the industry. I've polled different development audiences across Twitter, and I've brought all of this together and synthesized it to help us understand where we as security people need to go to serve our developers better. Developer empathy. In its most simplest form, we as security people, we need to walk a mile in the shoes of our developers. If you stop and think for a second about what the word empathy actually means, it means vicarious experiencing of the feelings, thoughts, or attitudes of another. In this case, I'm talking about security people who are experiencing the feelings, thoughts, or attitudes of developers. How are developers being impacted by the security tools and things that we put into their pipelines, into their process? And developer empathy, it really happens when we as security, we walk that mile in the developer's shoes. We understand what are the real struggles that they're challenged with. Many of them are challenges that we've presented to them or we've provided through the way we've approached security. And then embracing developer empathy, it allows us as security to experience those frustrations firsthand from the eyes of our developers. And that's really what's going to help us to change our approach, change the way that we work and interact with our developers. Let's jump right in and get into it. So as a developer, frustration number one, security doesn't understand what I do and doesn't know how to code. This is kind of an interesting one because it's one of the more controversial frustrations that I listed here, and that's why I went with it as number one. And that is, there is a big debate about if you're going to be in the application security world, if you're going to be in DevSecOps and you're a security person, how much do you need to know about the actual code? And I think you need to know a lot. That's part of what the frustration is that our developers are experiencing here. Think about it from this perspective. Let's imagine you take your car in for service, okay? Do you stand there next to the mechanic and tell them how to fix the car? No, because you don't know how to fix the cars or the car. If you could fix your own car, you would fix the car at home. You wouldn't have taken it to the mechanic in the first place. So it's frustrating for developers to be coached or governed or worked with by folks that don't understand what they actually do. It's like you standing next to the mechanic telling them how to fix your car, or telling her how to fix your car. So this is a frustrating thing. And when you kind of think about it from a summary statement perspective, we as security, when this frustration occurs, we're looking at our developers, and at the end of the day, we're saying, you know, I'm important enough to govern the process that you're using, but I'm too busy to understand the work that I govern. And so for every frustration, we've got to have a resolution. And so resolution number one is become a developer and learn how to code. You must learn the primary language and framework of the developers that you're trying to work with as a security professional. And yeah, I get it. Not everybody is working in application security or product security. If you're in information security, I don't know, maybe you don't need to learn how to code. But if you're going to work anywhere adjacent to developers, you have to understand the programming languages, the constructs, the frameworks, the things that they're using. And let me tell you this. The more you know about those languages, your eyes are going to open in the code review process. When you're looking at someone's code and you start to have an understanding for how code works and how it all fits together, you understand one object-oriented language, and you can code review a lot of them. The second thing is being able to explain the build pipeline. So as a security person, if we're using this build pipeline and that's what the developers are using to build their code, and that's what we have our security tools integrated into, as a security person, you better understand how it works. I've heard too many stories of different security people saying, yeah, you know, our developers, they use Azure DevOps as the tool to build their code. And that's where we integrate the security tools. And I ask them, like, do you understand all the details of how Azure DevOps works? No, not really. That's something that the developers have to deal with. No, wrong answer. That's something that you as a security person need to understand as well. The third part, actually write and commit code. You want to blow the developers' minds, write some code and commit some code into the thing that you're trying to help them with. With each of these, I've got an empathy boost too. So I want you to realize as you intelligently advise developers about the language and framework specific issues, you show them that you care about their plight because you've taken the time to understand, to learn the coding language, learn the framework that they're using. If you don't know how to do that, check out Codecademy. It's a great place to start to learn a particular language or a particular framework, at least enough to be able to talk intelligently with your developers. Developers' frustration number two is nobody ever showed me how to security. And so in your organization, developer knowledge and experience with security may be lacking. You as security may be expecting your developers to react and do the right thing when they have no idea what the right thing actually is. And you haven't taken the time to explain it to them. This is the developer looking at us and saying, or us looking at them, as security people looking at them and saying, hey, do the right thing for security and privacy, okay? Even though we haven't really taught you what the right thing is. Imagine going to your development staff and saying, hey, we've got a lot of SQL injections that are happening in our code, in our applications right now. We need to stop that. And the developers look at you and say, what's a SQL injection, right? That's the frustration. Nobody ever showed me how to security. Well, resolution number 2 says, build a security coaching practice and an education program. I had a chance to interview an individual from a large financial, and he was telling me about how they had built this security coaching practice inside of their organization. And the security coaching practice was set up in such a way that the members of the application security team would coach one-on-one with various developers across their organization. And I thought to myself, wow, that is a brilliant idea. What a way to connect with those developers and walk shoulder to shoulder with them as they're working through various security issues and being able to coach them. So one thing you got to do here, suggested path, is define and document how you're going to coach for security. Figure out how to build that coaching function. Number 2, empower your security team members and your security champions to perform coaching. This is more than just a central security team. This is all your security champions. They already love security. Empower them to go out and coach other people. Encourage them to coach other developers. And the third one, roll out an education program that touches every product adjacent person. When I say product adjacent, you have a number of people that surround whatever it is that you build. There's developers, there's testers, there's site reliability engineers, there's product managers, there's program managers, people managers, directors, executives. Anybody who is adjacent to the product needs an education in security. They don't all need the same lessons. They don't all need the same specific things, but they each need lessons that are applicable to what their role is. Here's an empathy boost for you. Listen to the developers all the time. Ask them for feedback about what they need help with and build solutions to teach and coach them. Frustration number 3 is, I don't know why we put so much effort and time into security. This is your developer talking to you and saying, why do we do all this security stuff? Why do we have to do all this? And when you think about how developers are compensated, that'll help you to understand why they ask this question. In the average organization, developers are compensated and bonused according to the number of features that they can produce, number of bugs that they can fix. And we as the security team, we're rightfully telling them all the time, hey, there is a need and there is value in building secure things. But what we forget to do is we forget to share the value proposition with them, the return on investment for the work that they're going to do to secure new features from the start, shifting left. And also the rework savings that are going to be generated. So it's more than just securing new features from the start. That's super important. We want to shift left in our approach to security and start doing security as early as possible. But the other thing that we always forget to lean into is there is a rework savings. Every security issue we can eliminate left in the process means less rework after something goes to production. And developers don't like doing rework. I don't think anybody likes doing rework, but I know developers especially don't like doing rework. And so that's something that we got to lean into here. So resolution number 3 is start with why and security ROI. Starting with why security is a very important idea. And I didn't come up with this. Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why. I read this book and I thought, that's pretty interesting. And what he talks about is how we always jump into the what and the how when we're taking something to someone, say, you need to do this. We don't step back and say, here's why you need to do that. And that's what I'm recommending here. Start with why. Start launching a campaign to help those product adjacent folks understand why security is important for your customers. Not for you as a security team, not for your executives, not for some other group inside of your company. Position this through the eyes of your customers. Because when I think about how customers think about security these days, it's 3 R's. It's reputation, it's retention, it's requirement. Reputation meaning your customers looking at you going, is this a company that takes security seriously or not? Because if they don't, I don't really know that I want to continue to work with them, which is retention. So if you don't have that if you don't have that approach to security, your customers are going to be looking to go elsewhere. And the last R there is just requirement. A lot of customers have specific requirements. They send you this long list of requirements when they want you to become a new vendor. All of this because they are so serious about security. Second part of this is provide real metrics for security return on investment. Analyze the data, provide real metrics for the return on investment for security that your developers are experiencing. I'll throw a metric out here. We got to throw one. I mentioned I can't just walk away and not give you an actual metric to work from here. Start to calculate the percentage of flaws that require rework because of some security deficiency, whether that's a tool finding, whether that's a code review finding, regardless of where it comes from. Start to track that number. Start to look at that metric and start to balance it and try to build a case around the return on investment for security. The more things we fix early in the process, the less rework we have to do, the more new cool features that we can build as developers. You got to sell this. And our empathy boost on this one is when we open the door for developers to understand why we do what we do, they're going to get on board and say, I'm with you. I'm on board with our mission to secure the planet, whatever the planet means for you. Frustration number 4, the security process is difficult or undefined. Without guidance and a framework, developers just don't know what we want them to do. They don't know what the requirements are. They don't know what the expectations are for new feature development. Going back to the previous thing I said, they're compensated and bonused based on being able to complete features, fix bugs. And if you don't give them clear guidance, they don't know how that impacts what they're trying to do. Developers, they crave predictability of the process. If you are operating a semi out of control process, then you're messing with their whole world. You're messing with their whole flow as developers because they don't know what to expect. And if you don't have that predictability of the process, it's just difficult and frustrating to gauge how much time they need to set aside to do the security process related items we're asking them to do. And if you're marching towards a Friday deadline where, hey, I have to have these 3 things done for this sprint, you need predictability. So that's the frustration they have here, is that often we forget about predictability. We tell them, follow the security process, the 100-page document on the wiki. So resolution number 4 here is use the security development lifecycle as guardrails. So when I think about guardrails, I think about a car going up a mountain. We have guardrails there on both sides of the road to keep us from going off the side of the mountain, to protect us. But what the guardrails don't do is they're not just 2 inches wider than your car, so you really can't maneuver a whole lot. You got to stay really close and really tight to the right spot. Guardrails give you some freedom around the security process to have some creativity and lean into what you have to do. And so leaning into your secure development lifecycle, like it's 2021, you better have an SDL at this point. SDL is table stakes, secure development lifecycle. If you don't have one, get one quick. The other thing is just set expectations. Define and communicate the clear developer expectations regarding the secure development lifecycle and any other security processes. Remember, the guardrails, they keep that car from going off the side of the mountain. They assist the developer in how they can stay in the security lane and still do things a little bit more creatively. Frustration number 5, and this just burns me when I heard this from a couple of different people, and as I've continued to think about it. Security changes their minds all the time. And so you'll hear this sometimes where a developer will say, okay, when security was working with Jane's team, they said X. And when they spoke with our team, they said Y. What gives? How can there be 2 different answers to what seems like it's the same exact question? When you think about it, though, depending on the knowledge level of the people who are listening to the answer, both answers may have been correct. The frustration, it's not about accuracy, it's about the trust that the development teams have with the security people that are advising them. Developers are looking for clear, concise guidance on what security wants them to do. Just tell me what you want me to do clearly. And they experience frustration when we lose that process predictability. They lose faith in the advice's source if it's not consistent. And if a developer loses faith in security's capabilities for many reasons, they're going to avoid bringing things to your attention. They're going to just say, well, we'll just do this one without any advice from security, which we all know what's going to happen there. And we don't want that. We want to be trusted advisors. This is security saying, we don't change our minds, we reinterpret the data. Yeah, sometimes we change our minds. Sometimes we get it wrong. And so resolution number 5 is gain understanding and offer a second opinion. You have to search for understanding. And I realize this is gonna grind some security people. It's gonna make them a little bit angry, and that's okay. I don't really care. This attitude of us as security people saying, I'm always right, I'm from security, this is my discipline, I have all the answers. No, that's not how we work in a collaborative world. We can't just continue to believe that we have all the answers and nobody else can offer anything to help us. So you got to search for understanding here when you're working with these developers. You have to search for and question understanding in any of the interactions that you have with them. You have to ensure that your team is giving out the same guidance, at least at a high level perspective, because there's nothing worse than if that example I gave was true, where one security person is talking to team X and they're giving one set of advice, and somebody else is talking to team Y and they're giving a completely different set of advice. That's really frustrating. Another thing that's going to scare some people here, provide a mechanism for developers to get a second opinion. I mean, in the world of medicine, we get a second opinion all the time, right? We get a doctor tells us something, we're like, oh, don't like that answer, I'm going to go get a second opinion. Now, I get it. We don't want to create this world where there's this whole distrust and nobody thinks they can believe anything anybody's saying. But as security people, we have to be willing to once in a while say, you know what, you might need a second opinion. Let me bring in one of my colleagues, bounce this idea off from them, and let's see what they conclude coming out of this. And here's the empathy boost for this one. Once again, this is going to scare a lot of people, but if you're wrong, admit it and move on. Nothing builds trust like a person who's willing to accept, hey, you know what? I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers all the time. I'm trying to do my best to help you build the most secure product that's going to serve our customers well and protect our customers' data, but I don't have all the answers. Just that little move right there can be enough to really build and gain some trust. Frustration number 6 from the developer's perspective is, I don't have enough time to do security. And we all know the old adage, right? Fast, cheap, good. You can have any 2 or 3 that you want off that list. But developers experience pressure every day tied to the amount of resources they've been allocated to do their job. And when we live in a world where resourcing is confusing and we don't know if security has been given the right mandate, the right resource, the right allocation of time, all this does is build frustration, and it does it to the developers. It's not really us that even feels that pain. When a developer has a manager that hasn't bought into whatever the corporate requirements are going to be for security, then the developer, to do what's right for security, has to push against their manager. And to comply with what security has agreed, they have to go against them. And that's not healthy. That's not good. And so I think about, what if development flipped back around on us from a security perspective and said, hey, you know what, you got 10 minutes to perform this code review, or you got 15 minutes to do that threat model right there. Like, that pressure and not having that time allocated in that resource would be a struggle for us as well. So frustration number 6 is not enough time to do security. The resolution here is we have to raise awareness about security resource needs. We have to get buy-in at all levels. When I say all levels, I mean frontline managers, directors, executives. Everybody has to buy in to what we're asking each developer to do in regards to security in our DevOps pipeline. We also have to provide estimates for how much time these activities are going to take. We got to create some metrics. We got to track these activities so that we can better advise our constituents and say, hey, here is the amount of time you really need to allocate. And I'm going to call on everybody, launch a campaign to make everyone aware across your company what the security resource needs actually are and what are the times that are involved with this. And from an empathy boost perspective, as developers start to receive this management support that they need, the happier and more productive they're going to be with you as a security team, because they're not fighting against their own management. It's been allocated at the organizational level that we have to allocate time to do the right things for security in our DevOps pipeline. Frustration number 7 is security is a silo and acts as a gatekeeper. In the world of DevOps, we promote open communication amongst everyone on the team. We say we cannot have a bunch of different silos that are bumping into each other, that are separated and doing their own thing. When we have that type of a siloed environment, we know that the feedback is going to be slow. We're not going to share information. Friction's going to be high. Everybody's going to be miserable. The classic security answer to DevOps is to say that we live in this security silo and we have all the knowledge and experience and we get to make all the decisions. So, if you need something, you just let us know, but we're just going to stay here and guard this gate as a gatekeeper right here. This is nothing but frustration, though, for developers in a DevOps world, because we want to move fast. We want to get stuff done and we want to get out of the way and just be able to do stuff. And so gatekeepers are going to be frustrating because they try to control the process. They try to slow everything down to a crawl. This is DevOps. We're doing DevOps and security. We've got to do this at a high rate of speed. So we don't want to be a gatekeeper. We don't want people to gatekeep against us as security. Imagine if this got flipped back around and the gatekeeping was happening on the development side and they said, hey, you know what? We're not going to run that static analysis tool. Yeah, we'll have it in 2 weeks, but we're going to slow this thing down because we got a lot of cool code to push to production. So we're going to do that later. That would never pass from our perspective. All I'm doing is flipping it back around and changing the perspective to make us the people who are receiving the bad news from our perspective. So resolution number 7, it's all about partnership. We got to partner with the development teams. We got to let go. We have to build an automated process that takes security, integrates it into DevOps. We test it, we validate it, we make sure we're happy with it, and then we let it go and we let it do its thing. We don't try to keep sticking our nose into it and trying to gatekeep. We don't want to do that. All that does is slow things down and make everybody angry. We want to perform a proper assessment to ask, are we gatekeeping? Do we have some of these bad habits? Ask your development audiences, hey, is there any hint that we're gatekeeping here? Like that's a tough question to ask. You have to be very vulnerable to be able to ask that, but that's what true developer security, connection, collaboration, communication is all about. Partner with the developers. They want to work with us. They really do. And by treating them as partners, they'll look for opportunities to reciprocate. They'll look for opportunities to bring us into conversations where things need additional security help. Frustration number 8 for a developer is security busy work. Developers need to see the value in any activity that we're asking them to do. And so if you require a risk assessment or a threat model for every new feature, and then you take that and you just file it somewhere and nobody looks at it, you're wasting everyone's time. You're wasting the developer's time, you're wasting your time, you're wasting the resources of the cloud service where you're copying the risk assessment to. That's how passionate I am about not wasting anybody's time. And if you're doing anything manually in your process, you're wasting some time as well. Well, except for threat modeling, but we do that. It's a little bit more of a manual operation in a DevOps world. But it's frustrating for anyone to have to do busy work of any type. I mean, we as security people, we don't like doing busy work. But then as a security person, we might sometimes respond with busy work. How can you call writing a 100-page document about security architecture busy work? We may think that's fun. Not necessarily every developer is going to have the same conclusion that that's fun. So how do we resolve this one? We optimize the process and we make a no busy work rule. And with this, we have to review the artifact's value. Everything that we're collecting in our process, we have to determine, is this adding value to the product, to the application, to whatever it is that we're building? Collect feedback from developers to say, hey, what's the value you're getting out of this? Survey your developers to say, hey, with that new process for risk assessment we went through, what would you say on a scale of 1 to 10 is the value? What are some things you liked? What are some things you would change about that process? Imagine the feedback you'll get coming out of that. Then we have to be ready to cancel any artifacts in our process that we determine through communication with our developers that they're not useful for the improvement of security and or privacy. If they're not, get them out of here. The empathy boost here is just thinking about the fact that, hey, you don't like to do busy work in your job, neither do your developers. Provide them with security and privacy work that's meaningful to them and has value. Frustration number 9, the sky is always falling. We never celebrate success. As security people, we're not known for our positivity. We're just not. Because our job is to chase the next vulnerability, the next problem, the next bug. We seldom stop to celebrate and pat anybody on the back and say, hey, that was a really nice job that you just did there. And so in this environment where we live, it can always appear that the sky is falling and things are getting worse all the time. But it's frustrating for a developer to work in that environment where they feel like they have this perception where nothing's getting better, nothing's getting done. Why am I continuing to do these things over and over again? And there doesn't appear to be any different result. It's also frustrating to always constantly be negatively communicated with about security bugs with no hint or no success ever being celebrated. As security people, we're going to say, hey, we would celebrate, but we just got a page for another incident. It's not an excuse. Resolution number 9 is to celebrate our security wins. It's not that difficult of a thing to do. But the first thing you got to do is you got to get a feel for, hey, are we doing this at all right now? Do our developers think that the sky's always falling? Is that how they're perceiving us? Is it us as security people that are causing this perception? And then get ready to celebrate at all levels. And there's a million ways you can do this, some that cost money, some that don't. You can send an email or a team chat to a group of people or an individual that's in a chat, in their a chat for their particular group, to say, hey, I just saw you do something cool, and I just wanted to let the whole group know about this. Or you really fixed that security bug that we brought to your attention quickly. You did it thoroughly. I did a code review, and I was like, wow, that was a nice fix right there to eliminate this security problem. Those types of things don't cost you anything. A little bit of time, sure, but they don't cost any money. Look for other places to celebrate your security wins, whether that's a group all hands, whether that's creating a program called the Security Win of the Month, where you're picking something that happened once a month and sending out an email or something that says, hey, this really cool thing happened. By celebrating security wins, we can make things better for our developers. When you work on a team that values these things, it just makes you look for other opportunities to do stuff to improve security and privacy. Frustration number 10, security tools are loud, obnoxious, and inaccurate. As security people, we love our tools. We think they have all the answers for us. Guess what? They don't. They're good, they're useful, they're things that we want to ensure that we include, but they're not the end all and be all. And developers are frustrated when we send them the results of a tool that generates 10,000 entries. What are they supposed to do with that? How are they going to deal with 10,000 individual items? And so they're frustrated also when tools provide false positives left and right. And so this is us as security asking them, well, can't you just address all the problems the tool reported by yesterday? It's frustrating to have a tool that's loud, obnoxious, and inaccurate. Resolution number 10 is to tune the tools. Assess tool angst. Are there tools that developers are just super frustrated with that are in your pipeline? Do you even know that answer to that question right now? You should. You got to ask people, you got to survey, you got to see how are our tools supporting our customer. Security, our customer is the developer in the pipeline. We're not the overseer gatekeeper. We're a partner / they're our customer when it comes to the tools that we provide. Practice the least possible configuration mode with any new tools or tools that have a terrible reputation. Change that configuration. If it's generating a bunch of noise, pick the top thing that's a problem for your organization and then use that, set the policy to look for that one thing. Build some trust in that tool. And the last one here is don't be afraid to yank a tool out of your pipeline. Dismiss the underperforming tools. People have this idea, we're like, oh, I spent all this money on this tool. I could never pull it out of the pipeline. Guess what? If it's terrible, rip it out, send it back, demand a refund, pick something else that's best of breed in that particular class of tool and move on. But don't let underperforming tools hang around and cause angst amongst your development staff. Properly tune the tools. That provides security and privacy value for developers, for you as security, and at the end of the day, for your customer. So here's the summary of the 10 resolutions that I had. It starts with tuning the tools. We're going to work our way backwards. Make sure that you're tuning the tools such a way as that they add value. Celebrate those wins, security. Look for an opportunity to pat a developer on the back and say, hey, nice job. That was a great fix you had there. Optimize the process, and we don't allow busy work. We want to be partners. There's no gatekeeping allowed. We want to raise awareness about security resource needs so nobody feels that pressure to argue with their manager about doing what we're saying they should do for security. Gain that understanding of your developers, offer a second opinion if you need to, use the SDL as a guardrail to keep them within a boundary, but not lock them into exactly what they have to do. Make sure the developers understand why, build that coaching practice, that educational program, and most important, become a developer and learn how to code. You can do it. Last thing I want to leave you with here is just remember, we talked at the beginning about developer empathy. Practice that. Developers have empathy for security, security for operations, operations for development, everybody for everybody. Everybody's got to practice empathy. And so here's my apply slide for you. Next week, you should find a developer to job shadow for at least a week and practice developer empathy with them directly. Work side by side with them, shoulder to shoulder, ask a million questions and understand what they do and the pain, the frustrations that they are experiencing. And then evaluate the general frustration level within your organization. Within the first 3 months, find at least one developer to partner with on these efforts. You can't just look down from the mountain and say, well, I went to this talk at RSA and now I know all these resolutions. I'm just going to start throwing these things out for everybody to absorb. No, find some developers and practice developer empathy and partner with them so that they know that they're important in this process and that you want to work with them. Assess your organization against the 10 frustrations. Build a list. You can't fix them all at the same time. Within 6 months, you should deploy multiple resolutions to improve your security culture, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So in conclusion, the DevSec disconnect, I talked about that tension between developers and security regarding the security of new features and bug fixes. I talked a lot about developer empathy. I'm going to say it again. Developer empathy is when security walks a mile in the developer's shoes, understanding the struggles that your developers have with implementing security, pushing features, doing bug fixes, understand where they're coming from. Find that developer to job shadow. Your eyes will be opened so much wider than they are today, and practice that developer empathy with them directly. The last part, build a programmatic approach to understand these frustrations and apply the resolutions. These things will work for you, but you got to understand where the true frustrations lie and how to take these resolutions and put them together into a programmatic approach. Thank you very much for listening for this conversation.